Welcome to another episode of the Top Producer Mindset. I have a special guest here, Enrique Flores. He's been a loan officer with Equity Smart Home Loans now for
About a year now
about a
with
year
Equity
now.
Smart, yes.
This gentleman here, he's impressed me, amazed me. I mean, he's a go getter. He's someone that is extremely special in so many ways, and have nothing but respect for him. He's doing a lot of cool things that we're going to talk about today. And in fact, what I really enjoy about Enrique is that he represents that younger generation that knows how to take advantage of the technology and tools and I kind of want to dig into his mind and find out like what drove him, what keeps him there, and everything. And let's go ahead and get started. You want to open up with some words?
Of course, of course. Well, super happy to be on the podcast today. I've watched a few episodes, they're great. And, I'm really excited to share with people, like you mentioned, you know, what I think about in, making the videos and becoming a loan officer, why I chose a career, why I do what I do to maybe like, inspire people to, do the same in their own field. Not everyone watching this is going to be a loan officer. So hopefully they can take something from it too. So I'm super excited.
Yeah. So the big question for me is okay. You decided obviously to probably become a loan officer first, but uh, shortly afterwards, you decided to show people the steps of how to become a loan officer, and then once you started learning yourself on how to put deals together, then you took it to that, and then you had this ongoing passion to create content to help individuals wanting to get into the lending space to learn more about it and to get curious about it. And what how did that start, and why do you keep it going?
So it's funny. I presented at UC Santa Barbara a couple weeks ago on what I do with the YouTube and also as a loan officer. And I was telling them I didn't know what a loan officer was 4 years ago. So it's crazy how you can be something that you didn't know existed just 4 years ago.
Yeah, and let me interrupt you really quick because
Yeah.
I always joke around it, and you know, you're in high school, you're amongst your friends. Hey, what are you gonna do when you graduate? A doctor, lawyer, all the standard stuff, right? But
Yeah.
no one ever raises their hand and says, "Oh, I'm gonna be a loan officer," right? And I never imagined I was gonna be a loan officer. For me, it was something. If you know my story, it's something that I stumbled into just out of necessity. Got a job at a bank, got an opportunity in lending, and then from there, I blew up. If knowing what I know about lending now, I would have definitely said in high school, "Hey, I wouldn't mind being a loan officer just because of all the cool things that come with it," right? But anyhow,
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what I mentioned to the audience. Like, hey, I had no idea what a loan officer was. I wasn't, a 2-year-old, 5-year-old in kindergarten. Like, hey, I want to be a loan officer. It wasn't the case. I just like most people, like yourself, and I watched a lot of interviews too. And most people just kind of stumble upon, this career, and they see that has so much opportunity, for yourself, but also for other people and what you can do to help them. In buying real estate, which is one of the most important and powerful investments anyone will ever make in their life. So shortly after graduating from high school, college, I graduated in 2020. So COVID was going on. So it was kind of a weird transition in that not only was I like entering the real world, right? Real life, as like I would tell my dad, like, I'm entering real life now, right? But COVID was going on. So, the whole world was in shock. We didn't have a graduation. Everything was closed down. So how do you go look for jobs when everything's closed down? The whole world shut down, you know? And when that was happening, the refi boom was also happening. So my dad was like, "Hey, I have this friend, he's a loan officer, he's doing great. You should go work for him, be his assistant, see how you like it. They make good money." And at the time, I was I had an online business. Everyone was doing like Shopify businesses back then in
mhm,
COVID,
mhm.
and I was selling bracelets and I was making motivational videos on YouTube because at least for me, everyone in their life is gonna, have some kind of desire or pull to something, whether it be acting, singing, sports, basketball. And for me, it's always been helping people. And I think for everyone it's helping, but maybe some people kind of, want to help in bigger or in certain ways. So for me, I've always wanted to help and I've always been a fan of YouTube because it's somewhere where you could go to get information and you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to, be from some certain class. You don't need to live in a certain state. Like anyone can go onto YouTube and learn how to bake a cake, how to be an actor, you
Or in
know?
my case, fix a roof. I had to patch my roof one time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so and I grew up, with a single mom who didn't know English, right? So I've always had to, like, go out there and, be resourceful. I couldn't learn how to, do math homework from her, how to read books from her, how to write my name. I still to this day have very bad handwriting. And so I always gravitated to YouTube
Oh,
because I was
got
like,
it.
no one was really there. As much as she wanted to help me, if you don't know English, never went to high school, there's only so much you can do. So I always, was
So you
glued
would
on
like,
YouTube.
YouTube or Google math problems and kinda
Yeah.
like approaches so you can make it easier for yourself?
Exactly, and all that, made my life so much easier. A lot of what I know I've learned from YouTube. So I graduated. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be this YouTube star. I'm gonna help a lot of people. I'm gonna be a motivational speaker. And I was making those videos. I was making the bracelets. But one thing I learned quickly is, in a sense, you have to, you know, and not in a negative way, but you have to be a somebody for people to listen to you. You have to have done something,
Some
right?
credibility, some
Exactly.
accomplishments, like, "Why should I listen to you?" Right?
Exactly, so I didn't have that, or I thought to myself, "I didn't have that, so why are people gonna listen to me about, motivation and all these things?" And I remember, and all this was going on while I was being an assistant to that loan officer, and I remember one day the videos weren't obviously doing I got, like, 10 views, wasn't selling any bracelets, and at night, I'm scrolling through YouTube, and I land on this video, and it's how to get your mortgage loan officer license. And as soon as I saw that video, it clicked, and I was like, "I'm going to be the loan officer on YouTube, and I'm gonna help loan officers be the best loan officer possible, and they're gonna watch me because it's something that I'm actually gonna be doing, and I'm gonna be helping a lot of people, and eventually, I'm gonna put a lot of work into being the best loan officer, and then I'm gonna have that platform where I can become a motivational speaker, where I can write books." So I saw it as an opportunity to help not just the industry, but also accomplish my goals as a motivational speaker and writing books and being on stages. So that's kind of how it all planned out. Where
So to me, it sounds like you've had this, like, desire within you to try to figure something out with YouTube, and you saw this bracelet Shopify thing that didn't really pan out,
yeah,
and but I felt like you still wanted to be in that space where you're creating content, right? And I think that's brilliant, right? Find like a niche area that you're already involved in. And my big guess is that when you were probably looking for content yourself, you probably saw that there was an adequate amount of content.
that was
And
the
and
only video.
and you're like, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here. Am I right?
Exactly. So
Because you're
that was
right.
the only
Because when
video.
I
Yeah.
look up videos, I don't see that much stuff. And I started looking at your stuff. I'm like, wow, this is great. You're precise, you're concise, you break everything down very patiently, you're very careful how you choose your words so that everything you make it very easy to understand and follow your explanations. You're very thorough. That's something that I think people enjoy because you're easy to listen to and you make it easy to understand as well, like breaking it down like wow, you simplify it basically.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that you had in there, you nurtured it, you brought it out and how did it go from there? Like, you started what was your first video about, or
It
how
it
did it
went
go?
it went great because, like I said, I was making those motivational videos, they looked terrible, and I was getting, like, 10 views. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this now. Let's give it a shot." Another thing, and I'm a big fan of Grant Cardone, and one thing he mentions is, when if there's a vacuum, that's always a huge opportunity. A vacuum in the sense of, like, no one was making these videos. And it's also a YouTube strategy and a content strategy. Like, hey, if no one's making videos on, how to be the best golfer and you make a video, you're gonna be at the top. So also, it goes hand in hand with being omnipresent, right? If you want to be successful, like Apple, McDonald's, In and Out, they're everywhere. So if you're the only one doing what you're doing, you're obviously going to be everywhere, right? So the first video I made was how to get your license, and that one blew up. And I was like, okay, I hit the target. I got a fish. I got a bite, and I started just, like, dumping a bunch of videos, like, "Hey, I'm just gonna do, 2 videos a week, a video a week on what I'm learning as a loan officer." Like, I would learn something that Tuesday, that Wednesday, and that Saturday or, Sunday, I would go and film a video on what I learned.
And were these just sitting out there organically, or were you boosting them in any way? You would just kinda put the content and it was searchable and found by other loan officers that were just looking, or was there anything special you did to draw that attention or attraction?
Not necessarily. It wasn't any boosting. It was just all natural. I didn't pay any ads. It was just a lot of like research and again, going back to YouTube, hey, how do you, make a thumbnail? How do you pick the perfect title? And another thing that I learned from Grant is, you know, to get to quality, you have to go through quantity, right? I think you can agree with that. Like you got to bake 1,000 cakes before you bake the perfect cake. So I already knew that, and I was making all these videos, and I think I've made over 120 videos now, like long form YouTube videos. And now I know I can post a video and be like, that's gonna perform great or it's not gonna perform great. I already know what content the people like. I already know what kind of thumbnails, what kind of editing they like. But the only reason I know all those things is because I made so many videos and I saw the reactions from people.
It's great, and that actually reminds me, me and Abigail when, I'm not a big, social media. In fact, I think around the time that you were getting into the loan business, I was trying to just get myself into more social media. And, I don't even wanna look at my early videos because I was probably a mess. And Abigail can testify to this, and, you guys are listening, Abigail's
Oh my
our
goodness.
our
That's funny
social
that you
media
mentioned that. I'm
tech
gonna say
person.
something to that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did exactly what you said, what you just talked about. I just kept, "Let's just do it, keep doing it," and, to the point where you just start naturally getting good. Another
Yeah.
awkward thing was for me was doing my Zoom trainings and just looking at a camera, it just felt weird, right? And, but once mentally I got past all that, then I was able to perform and think clearly and not be thinking about all these other things, really be thinking about what is coming out of my mouth versus being nervous and what are people thinking? Who am I talking to? And, who's
Yeah.
out there? And I always tell people just practice. You just got to practice. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That's a great takeaway for this episode. If you guys are listening, don't know where to get started, just start doing videos. And, a lot of them, what I tell people is, lock them up, throw them away because your earlier ones probably suck anyways. But after you do, maybe 20, 30, and you feel really good about a good one, then post that one, right? Put that
Yeah.
one in and then see what it does. But I think, for my generation, it's a little harder for us. I don't know if for you, it's just a little bit more natural because you kind of already had the technology in place. And that's great because, for us as loan officers, having access to, free social media content. I don't even know this, but like, in 2001, 2002, the only way I could be known was paying
Yep.
newspaper ads,
Radio,
radio, and
TV.
those things were expensive. So now
Yeah.
I tell people, hey, create your content, it's free, and learn the whole process. And for me, it sounds like you even delved further than the normal person, where now you know what things are, what type of edits people like, what people are looking for, how to say things and all that comes through trial and error. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Of course. So yeah, and I think another point about social media, because like you mentioned, is important as a loan officer, really any business, whether you sell hamburgers, hot dogs, coffee shop, whatever, you need to like embrace social media. There's just no way that I mean, you could probably be a little successful without being on social media, but it's just going to make things so much easier for your business. So every loan officer has to be on social media, even if it's just a little bit, get in front of the camera and don't worry too much about what people think. Cause I get a lot of friends too, like, "Hey, Enrique, how are you making these videos?" Like my first ones were terrible. Like, I don't know what was going on with my hair. I was looking like an Oompa Loompa. The colors were off, so they were terrible. And I mean, in a sense, it is easier for, the younger people to get on camera, but also it's a little harder in the sense you're thinking, what are my friends going to think? Right. That kind of like that social embarrassment. So I feel like there's also that factor for us, the younger people, like, hey, are my friends gonna roast me? Um, at least for me, and I was like, do I have all these friends? Like, um, maybe some girls, I don't know, you know?
Hey,
And they're
but let
like
me tell you, you're doing great, so you have nothing to worry about.
yeah, and
You're
I'm like, "Man," I'm like, this girl I'm talking to, she's gonna see this, she's gonna be like, "Dude, Enrique's crazy. What is he doing? Like, what is he wearing? What's up with his hair? What is he saying?" But it's like, you gotta push through that for your business, and also, one thing I shared and when I spoke to the kids in Santa Barbara was, if you care about something, then all the noise is gonna, like, disappear. And for me, like, even with those motivational videos, no one was watching them. I looked terrible, they were terrible videos, but I actually truly felt like I was helping people. And that, put me in front of the camera, helped me, push the button to hit upload without being like, I'm not gonna upload it because, you know, Bob or Joe or Jane is gonna see this video. So I think that's another important thing to hone into as well is, you know, you're making this content to help people, to help someone, help the person at the other end. So that's always really pushed me to make the content is knowing that someone else is, that someone else needs that, video.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, this is actually why we're doing these top producer mindsets because we want to create content and invite guests like yourself that are doing extraordinary things that maybe a lot of people are not doing, and maybe it's an inspiration, a motivation because you're having huge success with it. If we fast forward to what's happened now, you got to meet us. I think we're a great company, and I know you're enjoying yourself here. We're a really good platform, and then from there, now you just got invited to be interviewed at NMP Magazine,
Oh
National
yeah, that was
Mortgage
fantastic.
Professional Magazine. If you guys haven't heard of it, so he's featured there now. So all these doors have just opened up, and I think you at such a young age are just going to continue to open up for you and just keep doing what you're doing. I think it's going to be amazing for you. And let's talk about that for a minute. How did that go? I know they approached you. They're looking for us old farts, they don't care about us anymore, right? They wanna know what the younger generation and how you guys
Yeah.
are getting into this business and.
Yeah, so that was fantastic. It was actually, inspired by yourself as well. And I think it goes into like being at a company, being part of a group where, everyone is striving to be their better self. Everyone's striving to, to do great things because had you not been on that magazine, because you were also featured, right?
Yeah, yeah, I got featured, yeah, I made front page, I thought it was so cool.
Yeah,
It'd have
no,
been nice if it would've been like the Fortune, which is the Forbes, actually, but
Forbes,
yeah,
yeah,
that's my next
Time
one, that's my
magazine,
next one.
yeah. So you were actually on there, and that, just like anything, success, a lot of people say, negativity is contagious, but like success is also contagious, right? So I was like, dude, that's awesome. And, I always had that in the back of my mind too, like Time Magazine, Forbes Magazine. Um, so I reached out and I was like, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do." And they're like, "We think you'd be a perfect, candidate for the most connected mortgage professional of 2024 because of what you're doing on YouTube." The audience is there. I have about 10,000 followers on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure most of them are loan officers. Not too many other people are interested in those videos.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a big, it's a big audience of loan officers, and yeah, it was great. It was a lot of hard work, but, things just I think another, important point here for loan officers or anyone in business is you gotta put in the hard work, the weekends, the days off, and then you may or may not even get to the top of the mountain. And you gotta know that, and you gotta be willing to risk that, and then, you'll get to the point where you're on that magazine. So, it just happened to be, that hard work for the past 3 years, just finally 3 years later, was,
Shows up,
it
yeah.
shows up.
Yeah, and that's great. Congratulations on that. And my hopes for you is that it just continues to open more doors for you. And if the whole training thing is in your passion, I think that's something that you can definitely pursue. There's a huge need in our industry, especially now that we're more virtual and people are wanting to learn things online and not really go into an actual classroom.
Yeah.
There's, I think, going to be more and more opportunity for you to even develop and grow that niche, and who knows where else it'll take you to. But uh, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about you as a loan officer. What's your experience been like? Are you enjoying, the nature of the business? I'll bring up four things really quick, and then I'll let you talk.
Yeah.
When I got into the industry as a young buck, uh, be honest with you guys, I was driven mainly by the big commissions. If you're in your
Mhm.
20s and you're making 20, 30,000 bucks a month
Yeah,
and you grew up in a poor community, you hit the lottery, right?
exactly.
And so I kept doing that. But then I also realized as time went by and the technology improved that I had control of my time. I started a family, and now I could go and make sure I didn't miss any of my kids' plays and participate and be more present to my family because of the nature of how our business works, right? And then as the technology kept improving, now I had mobility. We have mobility, meaning that now we can pretty much work from anywhere. And the last thing that I really enjoy now that in my older age is just the ability that we have to work on ourselves, and it's not even the ability,
That's
but
true.
it's required for you as a loan officer to continuously invest in yourself, develop yourself, and become a better version of yourself because you are the machine, you are the one that's providing the service, and the better trained you are, the more knowledgeable you are, then the better service you can provide. And those are the
100%.
four things that I've gotten out of this that's kept me here that for me, honestly, has been a blessing, and I hope you get to experience all those if you haven't already.
Oh, yeah,
But
definitely.
that's I think that's, when people come into this industry now, and then I think there's a bigger attraction for people to become loan officers because you get a lot of the top things that people are looking for in careers. They're looking for all those things that I just mentioned. And I think we're one of the few careers where you're not really required to be anywhere as long as you have a cell phone connection and computer, you're in business, and you can be in
Exactly.
business pretty much
Yeah.
anywhere you want. Let's talk about you as a loan officer.
Alright. So, me as a loan officer is actually very interesting because, you know, what I do as a loan officer, I always have, whether it be in the back of my head, the side of my head, or the front of my head, you know, not just how can I make my business better, how can I make more money, but also, how can I be that ideal loan officer? Because for me, you know 5 days from now, or, let's say it's a Monday, and a few days from now, I'm gonna have to make a video on what I learned that week. So I feel like, my approach to the business is very unique. It's very much, I would say, maybe even like a scientific
So it's
approach.
kind of like twofold because you're providing the service, but in the back of your mind, you're like, "Okay, I also gotta create content based on what I'm doing right now."
Exactly. Content in the sense of like, what does it truly mean to be a good loan officer? So as I'm going about my days, I'm also, thinking about that. Hey, I got this deal, I did this, I got this win, but what can I do to make that better? What is the ideal loan officer conversation look like? What does their business look like? And the reason I'm thinking all those things is because, I'm also building this training business, this YouTube business, and I would say that's a good and a bad thing because if I were just 100% focused on, the money or the commission, then I would probably, I think, get to, top producer status a lot quicker. But because I'm doing it in the sense of, how can we do things where the client is super satisfied, super educated, super knowledgeable. It's a smooth ride. And so I just dig deeper into things. I dig a lot deeper into, you know, if it's like for me, if something even goes a tiny bit, like it's not even terrible, but like a small inconvenience, the whole week I will think, "Hey, how can I make sure that never happens again in my business? And how can I teach that so it doesn't happen to other people in their business?"
Can you have an example of maybe something that you thought of lately? That quick example?
Yeah, so an example would be, there's so many. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I would just say like communicate. Know and communicate. Like, do your homework on the back end and always ask questions. Always ask questions, because the thing about this business too, and the reason I can't give you one thing is because there's so much to this business, right? Like I made a video the other day, and I was talking about how like there's so much to learn. You got to learn about politics, economics, the Fed, interest rates, divorces. You got to learn about credit, income, taxes, what's going on overseas. Like you need to know all these things, so really all you can do is, like you said, always, improve yourself, always grow, always, read books, self-improvement, because you need to know all these things. And at the end of the day, believe it or not, You need to know those things to be able to have a successful transaction just to do a loan.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I always tell people that we wear so many hats, and the latest thing we are is content creators. You have, like
Yeah.
you said, we have a good loan officer should be creating content. And when I signed up for this, I thought I was just writing loans, but your marketing, your funding, your operations, you're almost a mini business within yourself because you got to see everything from beginning to end. And I
All the way
think
to the janitor.
all the way to, you're right. And
Yeah.
then, the marketing piece is important because you gotta get known, you gotta get your name out there, and I think something that you've gotten really good. For the audience, how much time would you say you spent developing these videos per week if you had to give it an hour, like an hourly?
I would say so for the YouTubes, so there's 2 type of content I do. There's a long form YouTube content, which is just geared for loan officers, things I've learned and things that they can do to make their business better. It takes me about a video will take me 30 minutes to film. Once it's chopped up, it's maybe, a 15-minute video, and then the editing maybe takes 2 hours. Now, when it comes to the short form, which is something that everyone can do, all, loan officers, what I do is I make scripts 12 scripts, and what really helps is reading your guidelines. A new loan officer has to read his guidelines. So read your guidelines and you'll get ideas for content. Another great thing about making content like the short form is it makes you a better loan officer. Like one thing I didn't know is that like roughly real estate doubles every 15 years. So when I'm having conversations with clients, I can slip that in. I'm more knowledgeable because I'm learning all these things as I'm making the content. So make sure you batch the content. The I can make 12 shorts in maybe 12 minutes.
Right, and I'm sure for people that wanna get started, they can find videos on how to just edit and all that stuff too, just to work themselves to a place where they can feel comfortable doing their own content if they don't have the money right currently to hire a editor or a person that can help them with that, correct?
Exactly. So in the beginning, I did everything. Again, go to YouTube, you know, learn how to make shorts, learn how to make YouTube videos, do it on your own. And eventually you'll get to that point where you'll master it. And then you'll get to the point where you can pay someone. Like I've gone to the point where the shorts, I pay someone to edit those for me.
Got it, that makes more sense. Well, I think we're getting close to wrapping this up. Enrique, it's been a pleasure having you
Thank you.
here. You're just a wealth of knowledge and information, and I think this was really impactful. I think we got a lot of good stuff out there. Any last words for us, for the audience?
100%. So, a few last words to particularly the new loan officer is hang in there. Don't underestimate this industry or this business because like I said, there's a lot to learn. And always, I said this in a recent video, always reach for data. When something's going wrong, reach for data, ask questions, bug me, bug Pablo, bug your rep, because what's in between you and the solution is data, the answer. So reach for it. Don't think this business is not for you just because you're struggling. We all struggle. Get the data. It's not because it's going bad. It's not that it's not your destiny. Go out there, ask those questions, and it's going to take some time. You're not going to be a great loan officer in 2 months.
Yeah, and one thing I wanna mention with you because it just came to my mind is, you gotta be a driven person because we're all on our own. We don't have a boss, we don't have a supervisor, so all this stuff you gotta learn, you gotta go on, get online, learn all this stuff, take action. And the same freedom that we're enjoying being a loan officer is the same freedom that can hurt you because it can make you lazy, you're not focused, you're sitting on the couch.
100%.
So take the time to learn. It's an investment you're making on yourself, you're building equity in yourself. You're helping your customers build equity. So you got to do that for yourself. This is how you're going to be successful. This is how you're going to grow. Enrique, it's been a pleasure. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And oh yeah, and if someone's trying to find you, yeah, can you give us your social media
Absolutely.
handles
Yeah.
and
So on YouTube, I am Enrique and Greatness. On Instagram, it's also Enrique and Greatness, and TikTok, it's also Enrique and Greatness, and you'll catch me there.
you guys have to subscribe if you're an aspiring loan officer, new loan officer, even a seasoned loan officer. There's
Exactly.
you guys got to check out his content. It's great. I love it. Really clear, really concise, like I mentioned before. And thank you so much again for being here. Appreciate it.
100%. Thank you guys.